one poem by from this book. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. By Ron Schreiber, who was my co-editor and founder, one of the founders of Hanging Loose Press back in 1966. So we're an ancient press. I was only 12 when the press started, so I was precocious. But Ron passed away in 2004. But in this pandemic era, I've been really thinking a lot about the AIDS epidemic. And Ron was a gay poet, really an early participant in gay liberation. He taught at UMass Boston, where I also teach, and was I think he created perhaps the first course in gay and lesbian literature in the country back in the early 70s. And so he was an activist poet like Indran is. And so this one poem really, I keep thinking about it because it has this wonderful refrain. Tomorrow will really, the title of the book and this refrain from the poem is, tomorrow will really be Sunday. And I just keep thinking of being sequestered at home and the days just kind of blend into each other and every day seems like Sunday, and literally tomorrow will really be Sunday. The poem is set in 1978 in Boston, which is the title, January 1978, which there was an enormous, the greatest blizzard in the history of Boston, which basically shut down the entire city for 2 weeks. Cars were stranded on the highways for a week. And so the kind of calm and that sense of people being trapped at home plays into this as well. So let me read this short poem. Every day is Sunday now. Monday it snowed. Tuesday everything stopped. The trains stopped, the buses stopped, the factories stopped, the hospitals almost stopped. And every day for a whole week, there was no traffic and people walked in the streets. Today is Saturday, and the traffic is stopped. Tomorrow will really be Sunday. The next day will be Monday, and it will snow again. And just like last week, it will snow again all day Tuesday, and everything will stop. Only this time, there will be no place to put the snow. This is the second winter of the apocalypse. Last winter was very cold. This winter, there was more snow than ever. Tom's mother said there is all this snow in Boston because Tom's queer. But last winter, the orange crop froze in Florida, and it snowed in Albany, where Tom's mother called from. And it will snow again Monday and Tuesday and break record after record. Some people will say it snows because we are queer. Others will say it snows because the Northeast is a decadent part of the country. But it is really snowing because it is the second winter of the apocalypse, which is coming in ice and cold. This winter, there are mudslides in California. Last winter, there was drought. And next winter, the earth will open over the San Andreas Fault like it is opened in Turkey and Guatemala City. The apocalypse is not one gigantic tragedy. It comes a winter at a time, then a summer at a time. And people don't say, oh, the world is ending. They blame the snowfalls on the queers, who are suddenly everywhere, dancing on the rim of the earth, making love while the sun still shines. I've been thinking about that poem a lot during this period. So, Indran, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the book should arrive any day.
All right.
So it's my great pleasure to introduce Indran, who I've known for quite a long time now. He's one of the distinguished authors of Hanging Loose Press. And we're here celebrating The Immigrant State, which is his newest title from Hanging Loose Press. There are 3 in all. His first book, The Elephant of Reckoning, which is a wonderful book, won the Patterson Poetry Prize. The second book we published, the Splintered Face, dealt with the 2004 tsunami that devastated the Indian Ocean coastal areas in Southeast Asia and just killed countless people. And so I find that Indran is a really remarkable writer, someone who has published a total of 17 books in 5 different languages. He's the migrant status is what he knows intimately, migration and exile in a certain sense. What I love about Indran, I think, is that he doesn't moan and lament his status, but rather he's actively engaged in the world, talking about current events, talking about events throughout the world, talking about his own experiences, love, friendship, children, etc. So he's really remarkable in his activity, both politically and in his writing. He's got to be one of the most prolific writers I know. I think I get an poem emailed to me about 3 times a week from Indran. And often they're in, Haitian Creole or Portuguese or Spanish and not English, so I can't even read them. But he's just, it's just remarkable. Anyway, I think my favorite poems in this book, and I hope you'll read a few of them, there are several suites of poems dedicated to and in sort of in conversation with Walt Whitman. And I think these are some of the best poems in the English language about Walt Whitman that I've read. So I hope you'll share a couple of those with us. Let me conclude with just a couple of remarks from some of the people who wrote blurbs for the book. I want to say this one particularly. Ilya Kaminsky wrote, "The Migrant States is a book where passion and memory meet, a book that calls for open borders of the mind. It is a book that knows that everyone and no one is a foreigner on this planet, and that the country of poets has no customs. With Whitman as his interlocutor, IndranAmirthanayagam takes us on the journey with no return, where our ticket is moving and beautiful song." So without further ado, let me IndranAmirthanayagam.
Thank you so much, Mark. What a lovely introduction. I mean, I hope I merit it. And yes, I'll try to increase the number I send you every week. That's my first reaction. No, actually, I send too much, and I've had to hold back. But it's keeping me alive. This writing and sharing is very important to me, whether it's even if the poem is unpublished and so on. And in this time of the pandemic, even more so. I'll read a poem to begin called "The Migrant's Reply." We have been running for so long. I mean, all of the poems I'll read are from the book, The Migrant States. So yeah, The Migrant's Reply. We have been running for so long. We're tired. We want to rest. We don't want to wake up tomorrow and pack our bags. We have gone 10,000 miles. We have boarded a rowboat, tugboat, bus, freight train. We have a cell phone and some bread. Our eyes are dry. Our breath needs washing. What next? You're putting up a wall on your southern flank. What an irony. The country that accepts refugees does not want us. We qualify. We have scars and our host governments hunted at least some of us. The rest fled in fear. Gangs do not spare even the children. White vans took away our uncles, our cousins. Do you think they've been made into plowshares? Aye, what are you saying? Too easy. Too easy to wear our hearts in these words in slings, on our faces, furrowed, perplexed. What happened to kindness to strangers? Why do we have to be herded like prisoners held in a holding camp? We are human beings, and like you, in safer countries, we have the same obligation to save ourselves and our children. Oh, the children, look at them. Give them food and school and a new set of clothes. Give them a chance. Whether you are red or blue, the eye of the hurricane does not discriminate. We are your tumbling weeds, hurling cars, flooding banks, and we are diggers of the dikes. We can teach you so many languages and visions. You would learn so much, you would never, ever say, lock us up. This is no time for criticism. I realize my lines are not lyrical. They have no surprising leaps or rhythmic epiphanies. They are flat, a body shot on the street, visited by paramedics, wailing young men and women. We do not discriminate in 2020. We are witnessing birth of a revolt, a rejection, and you say my verse is agitprop, an unfit exercise for poetry. I reply, writing that the body must be buried with dignity and surviving family paid. As for the healing of decades-old wounds opened up again by a tank trundling into the center of the city, I offer my pen as a bulletproof vest, immune to criticism, resistant like an ear of wheat in the wind, an eagle brushing off the fur of a mouse from its wings. Who is looking down on us now, my friend? Who is saying, shut the bloody fuck up and write truly hermetic poetry? We've all been watching New York and trying to carry some of the pain of that the city has been suffering. This is a New York that I knew when I lived there, and I hope we can find again in the future. Prelude. To live on the island satisfied basic needs, poetry readings in the evenings, noodled curries, belly dancing, and love, and gardens, famous writers on street corners, monuments, chestnuts, ice and hibiscus, movies filmed in the fruit market, and paintings in grand salons, and love, and smacking bites of a burger with a pint, the jeweled eye of a fish, a tailor who survived the number branded on his arm, the delight of lingering over a glass of wine, a chat in love, sunrise and sunset over two splendid rivers. You know, I started writing about these Walt Whitman inspired poems on his 200th birthday celebration, you know, during that time. And all over the country, we celebrated his 200th birthday. And in Washington, where I'm in Rockville now in Maryland, we had 2 weeks of celebrations and organized by Kim Roberts and others. And I'm very grateful for that period of time. And anyway, I started writing these poems to share during that period. This one I wrote on the 200th birthday, Walt 200. Break the locks, unleash the mind. Walt Whitman has left Paumanok. He is abroad. He is sitting among us in our soul. He flies the post with pigeons and the giant freight planes. He hops freight trains and rides into Mexico. He is on a P&O cruise visiting St. Kitts and Barbados. He has joined the merchant marine. He sails into Guantanamo. He throws fish into the sea in search of whales. He has the biggest, longest beard in the world. He jives, thrives, cavorts, shimmers. He is 200 years old today, and he does not give a flying rat. He's in your mind, Mr. President, even if you cannot smother or scratch or squeeze him out. He is gloriously spirit, gadfly, rabbit, and sloth. He nurses our democratic wounds. He knows how to write history from the pebble's view, the side glance of the wren, the snake hanging in the tree. He is black and white and all shades of gray. He is our friend and guide. and he will elect us every time we fall down. Let us go back to Paumanok with what we've learned these 200 years. Let us go back to set forth again Walt Whitman in our backpack. I'll read one more of the Whitman poems. There are a number of them in the book. This is a slightly longer one called Ode to and from Whitman. And then I'd like to read a couple of poems for my son, Anandan, who, by the way, did the cover of the book, painted it and designed it, and a poem I wrote many years ago. And for my daughter, Lola, whom I'm happy to know is watching this from all the way from Argentina as I read. Ode to and from Whitman. Ezra said you were pig-headed, but he recognized that you made the new wood. We have been carving for more than 150 years since you first painted the leaves of grass. Now we have plastics on our mind, floating islands of waste, stuffing stomachs of fish and whales, weighing a third of all fish in the sea, and by 2050, even more than all of those fish. What would Walt say now? Turn his attention to water, to streams and rivulets, rivers and lakes spilling into the plastic-ridden sea? What would he say about the inheritance of Roosevelt? Who is turning in his bed? Would he monitor delivery of babies sailing out of the birth canal the 9th month midnight to be abandoned at a hospital door in the alleyway of Walmart by a young mother driven mad with anxiety, guilt, shame, and fear? Would he say that the mother can murder and create? Would he say that if that mother had the right to choose and the means, she should be allowed to stop cells multiplying before they become embryos, or further along, open eyes and start to taste spices consumed by their host? Roe versus Wade, Whitman is grand, contains multitudes. He did not reject the Negro or prostitute. He saw man and God in a blade of grass. This poem is for a panel on Pan, on nature, on the transcendent spirit, God or sprite, wood genie. What courses through the blood of a stevedore and a banker, a rabbit and a leaping hare, a sloth and a panther, life, yes, and impending death. Imagine driving along a highway at 70 miles an hour. You must have thought at least once, what if you swerved into the guardrail to escape a deer, across the median into incoming traffic, to kill oneself, to be killed, to have the hand on the button of your own desire and fate? I am large, I contain multitudes. I will roar through this life and will not stop until I stop. Moloch be damned, the military-industrial complex be damned. America, go bother somebody else. I have more than $2 in my pocket, but I'm not satisfied with a coffee at Starbucks. This is a relative poem, an elusive child, a homage and a diversion. Can you spot the antecedents, or shall we protest again in our time? So he from black and I from white cloud free. The old arguments and quarrels course still through our psyches. Walt is contemporary as a blade of grass, a cow allowed to chew its cud in a field, an organic tomato, a wild mushroom. Walt is relevant as a raw food juice designed to pick you up every morning, to say you can go local, bring the chains of distribution home. You can go abroad and walk to the greengrocer, live in the world and in a small space of earth, learn to bear the beams of love. William Blake gave us that adage. Walt said, there was never more inception than there is now, nor any more youth or age than there is now, and will never be any more perfection than there is now, not any more heaven or hell than there is now. And now, a poem I wrote many years ago when my son was visiting with summer chess for Anandan. You go now, and I'm sad, and the sadness will spill into late summer and autumn until we meet again, when the leaves fall and chestnuts smack our memories alive. And you ask, Dad, did you always walk in Regent's Park when leaves turned red and yellow and the morning bristled? and the sun seared, yet left your skin cold. A cold sun. Dad, I feel it too. This summer that I thought would go slow has now turned into a sprinter's dash. And what's to do? Yes, write and fill days with friends and games and sums until next summer, until the next time we go to bed and know there's no morning flight. And your queen and rook are ready to trap my king. And now a poem called Morning Mass, Halloween, for Lola, who loves Halloween. Hushed tones, place of worship, early morning. A woman kneeling in the pew could not get up. The priest brought her communion. Then another parishioner called for an ambulance. The fireman, a friend of the ambulance driver, arrived in his fire truck. They worked together naturally. What to do now? Walk to the font, dip fingers in holy water, then go out to my car. Paramedics will lay her on a stretcher, pump her heart, wheel her away to the hospital. Life is coming to its end. A repeat. In my dad's case, his heart stopped while he kneeled at a pew. Nobody could revive it. He would have loved to see my daughter smiling as she guards the witch's cauldron this Halloween, sweets in hand. You know, Mark, when you read Ron's poem about Sundays, I thought I'd read the short poem I have in the book called Recalling Sunday. I have fought the blues on so many Sundays, I have lost count of hours frittered away in sifting through the past to understand why I carry a peculiar strain of melancholy that pierces all activity and must in the end be endured, tempered by the Mass, a story shared at evening with my daughter, a cricket game relived fondly when far removed from the pitch, and dare I say it, in company of that bitch, life, who does not spare even Sunday to poke a dagger into memory. I'll read two more poems. There's a section of the book that has to do with Haiti, and these are poems I wrote in Creole, and I have a great debt, as in the earlier books, to Dick Lurie, who edited this book. And you know, the book went through many stages. It was a very different book that was accepted by Hanging Loose. And then these Whitman poems showed up, and then the Haitian poems. And so the final product is the work of assembling and reassembling, and there's a section in the book with these poems that I wrote originally in Creole and translated into English. And here's one of them. It's actually a song. As you know, Dick is also a musician, I'm a pretend musician, but I did an album with some Haitian artists. And so hear this in the original Creole in an album called Rencontre Dout, R-A-N-K-O-N-T space D-O-U-T, that you can find on Spotify or any of the music stores. Anyway, this is an English version of the song that I think captured for me some of the nostalgia and sentiment I feel vis-a-vis Haiti. It's called The Avocado Season is Over. In Creole, it would be Temps avocats est fini. The season of avocados is over. The most beautiful girl in town is about to marry a man across the water. My brother is busy with his manuscript. Time to share ideas in a book has gone to the country without a hat. Accept reality. Don't live anymore in fantasy. You are getting along in years, but have only spoken Creole for 2. You have a great long life ahead. Think, reflect, tell all the new families, congratulations, good luck. Then write again about your life in Haiti when the avocado was in bloom. You know, we are all formed by so many poets and guides and teachers, and and formed by the books we read. And one of my guides was Alistair Reid. His translations of Pablo Neruda, especially End of Borges, meant a lot to me growing up. In the book Extravagaria and Memorial and Isla Negra, a notebook. And I was sorry to note the other day that Extravagaria is out of print. I hope it can be revived. I don't know who will do that. Anyway, Alistair was a poet, of course, too, and a writer for the New Yorker. Anyway, I write about some of this in this poem, Alistair Gone, that appeared first in the magazine in Hanging Loose. You have left the field to wild grass, creepers, bracken, nests popping out from branches. I don't know if you ride caboose in Temuco now, or step out with moor hens and grouse, or into that Dominican plot which you tilled, says McGrath, with your farmer's hands. I don't know, of course, is just a fiction, an invention, a hedge, a way to grieve. You are dead, I read, who named my secret country, then disappeared, as was your practice throughout life, the New Yorker office, your only secure address, to which I wrote often and from which you emerged to invite me to a feijoada, to say, pair the poem, to begin on the lines you must love, and end on the verse from where I greet you today, the other side of the sea. Thank you very much. And the book is called The Migrant States, if you don't already know, and please look for it at SPD Books and soon at elsewhere. Thank you. Thank you.